This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, very good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, so last session we were discussing about Ansible, I think. Yeah, so Ansible, we try to kind of use a pull mechanism also, and we were trying to do. So now the same changes should be um, the same changes should be what we call the same changes should be done on Terraform side. Okay, so in Terraform, you're using shell script in making the kind of AMIs, right? So there you're actually going to specify Ansible. Okay, so let me show you that. So here you're actually doing a Terraform project and a Terraform AMI here if I see, and instance.tf if you take. So you're actually creating the instance and doing this. Now over here you're actually making through the shell script. Okay, now rather than this, I want to go with a Ansible. Okay, that is the first. That is the second thing. But before to that, even I wanted to do something else. Okay, what I wanted to do is I'm hard coding the username and password. Okay, this is the something secrets I'm holding. Even though I go with Ansible, so some kind of secrets I have to hard code, which I don't want to do that. Whereas I just want to um, use a secret text basically. How do I use that? How do I do that? Okay, so that particular part we're going to see now. So for that, actually, what I told you, there is a secret manager, right? So there is something called as secrets manager. Okay, you go with the secret manager and you put the secret manager or you put your passwords in the secret manager, and secret manager, okay, using Terraform will read the passwords from the secret manager, and we will, yeah, proceed accordingly. All right, so now create a new secret. So I want to say, so this is a credential for some kind of services. No, I just want to say other. What is my, this one is so ssh underscore user is my username, and what is my password? My password is my username is CentOS. Okay, and ssh underscore password is DevOps DevOps 321. Okay, so this is the one. Just click on next. And what is the secret name you want to give? So the secret name I would like to give it is RoboShop, probably environment based one. So probably -dev. So probably you will get an flexibility that if it is a dev environment, you do some kind of secret. If it is a prod, a different type of secrets if you want to put, so definitely environment will make it. Okay, so just click on next, and this is also next. So now you're, and just click on store. You're going to store the username and password. I'm going to read them now. Okay, so how do I read them? So I have to read them through Terraform. So Terraform, if you want to read the existing information, that is nothing but called as um, okay, so that is nothing but called as data, right? In the data sources, in the data.tf. Okay, I want to call the username and password. How do I do that? So let's see. So here AWS underscore secret manager secret. Okay, so which is some secrets I will say. And what is the secret name, by the way? I need to find it out. Okay, or this little process here, I just let me refer my old code and I can do that. Rather than the internet, I'm just referring my old code. So that's it. So secret is equal to, and probably in name is equal to what, right? Hyphen var dot env. I think that variable is not there. Right? I will say variable and TMB, and so we'll pass this particular variable over the CLI. For now, let it make that way. And so once after you read the secret, you have to do little work. Okay, so what is that? I will show you. Suppose if I go to Terraform, so YAML, I'm not doing it here. Seriously. Yeah. So first of all, you have to do this, and you have to retrieve the secret also. Okay. So here, yeah, you have to do something like this. So which revision? Okay, which revision you want to make? Dot secret and dot ID. So you're actually taking that secrets ID, okay, and retrieving the version also, okay, secret version. So what is this doing? Let's go and ask the Terraform documentation. You'll understand, right? So it actually follows the revisions, okay. It actually follows revision. So and so that revision, why? Because is if any modification happened, so if you want to get kind of the latest one or the old one, so it is possible basically. So okay, so that's where actions delete secret. So you have somewhere kind of edit location, edit permissions, or while creating the secret, I might have not selected some kind of versioning. Okay, that's fine. So now what you're actually getting is your ID. Okay, fine. I get the ID. So then after that, so how do I retrieve the password? Okay, so data.df, and over here, so you can just access this. That's it. Okay. Now I will go and say that in strings.df. So your password is actually going to be is username actually going to be is this one, and creates secret string, and you just take as such user. So this JSON encode is nothing but, so because you are going to get this in a JSON format, okay, and out of this JSON format, what you are actually going to get here is SSH user key, okay, SSH user and SSH underscore pass. It's the same user, I mean same keys I have used, so I can use. That's it. SSH and pass. I just use the same keys there, okay. In the data.tf, so you're actually using secret manager's secret version, right? So what is this doing? Um, in the data sources. So retrieve information about the secret version, including the secret value. So yeah, it is including the secret value as well. All right. So yeah, actually to demonstrate you what is really happening, I can show you as well. So I can just go to my workstation and I will temporarily show you as well, just to avoid the confusion. Okay, so cd/tmp ls, and so get here data, so cd data ls. So vim, like let's say data.pf file, and if we say this one, and I'll just say that it is env. Okay, so yeah. So now Terraform vim. So Terraform, let's make it as init, and Terraform approve. So what it is telling of hyphen env, of course, hyphen dev. It's it is too bad. Okay, so now if I just go with if I just go with data.tf, and I just go here. So now output, like let's say secret, and value is equal to value is equal to data dot, and this one dot secrets. Okay, done. So Terraform apply Python. Yeah, if you see this actually, so what it is doing, it is actually bringing the information about that particular that secret. That's it, but it's not actually bringing any kind of values inside. Okay, so that is the reason. So what we did, we just went with PF, and so we went ahead and made this one, right? So you just go with this, and now here what you can specify here is data rather than the data secrets manager. Now I'll say secret version dot creds. Now you have to take this. This actually reads the secrets. Okay, version reads the secret. Apply auto approve. So now it actually bringing the information, but also it brings the secrets. So you can see this. But actually, the secret string you're looking for, right? So you're looking only for a such user. So if I just go with this one, and I will say I'm looking only for that one, you just do this. Okay, so then you get so you get the output as this, but actually I'm looking for CentOS. Now this is in a JSON format. Okay, I want to retrieve the value from the JSON format. Now you have a JSON encode option. So JSON encode is something which is available in JSON encode is something available in functions of Terraform. So I'm just taking this and I'm telling that, hey, I'm looking for a particular value. So what is the value I'm looking for is I'm looking for SSH underscore password. Okay, I'm going to say this. So then, I don't actually know. This braces actually has to be here. Okay, so you convert this into a JSON format, and from this you retrieve the value of SSH pass. Okay, now this is how you are actually retrieving the username and password from that particular secret, and you get DevOps 321. Okay, the same thing I applied in the code as well. In the code, actually taking JSON and code and doing this. All right, so using this particular one, so we will just try to okay, so kind of wherever you have some username and password scenario, you just replace this one. The next thing, I'm actually going with Ansible. Okay, so now here what I'm actually trying to do, there is git space clone, and so where is my repository? Go to the repos and then specify this. All right, and I will go and say that so cd, hey, I just chosen wrong one. Okay, so now cd terraform hyphen ami. No, not even this actually. We're doing with the Ansible, right? So Ansible, and I'll just go with clone and git space clone and cd Ansible slash hyphen project. Okay, and inside this So what you're doing, you're creating a server and you're connecting to the server and you're actually executing the commands inside the server. Now what commands? So make is really not needed, I think, if I'm not wrong. So the make we're not using for Ansible. So we made it for shell script, that's okay. And so cd Ansible RoboShop project, which is fine. And now I'll go with git space, no, wait, git space one. Ansible hyphen full. Okay, so hyphen I, localhost, comma, to do this. And even in fact, actually, you should not clone this also. Directly run the Ansible full, right? So hyphen U. Okay, what is the repository? This is the repository, isn't it? So you do this, and inside this, you're actually telling, or even I can show you here, rather than switching screens, I can just show you here itself. So here you go for RoboShop slash roboshop.yml file, and no, RoboShop hyphen project slash roboshop.yml file. Okay, so roboshop.yml file, and after that, so probably you need to send some hyphen variable, and env is equal to dev hyphen variable component is equal to var dot component. Okay, so we are going to take these two things, and these are the values which are looking for. My Terraform AMI looks for these particular values, and I'm passing that particular value. So let's see. So how this particular AMI is really working. Okay, so I will just go to the pipelines. We made some releases, right? So we'll just go to the this, and we will go to the individual component, like let's say front end. Front end has AMI option, right? So create a release, and let the, I don't want to create the environment, I want to just create the AMI. Just click on create. Now this AMI is getting created. So let it run. So now var.env, okay, sorry. Hyphen e, no, not here you have to use, right? Here I have to use var.env. Here it has to, we have to pass this var.env, okay, and so while running this, we have to pass that information. While running it, where actually I'm doing, so let me cancel this, and we would be going with pipeline, and I will click on edit pipeline. So here, go to the tasks. Here you have some environment variables. So probably I'll add this one also. So tf underscore var underscore env is nothing but dev. So save. Create release might fail. Why? Because it was stuck and I canceled it, and actually it creates one DynamoDB table. I mean some entry in the DynamoDB. some entry in the table, go to the Terraform items. It might create one lock. Yeah, you see this, there is a lock happened. So on the AMI state file, if you see AMI, and in the state file, there is a lock is there. So I will just delete that lock because I interrupted the Terraform process in between. Okay, and that will happen. Now I'll just go to the front end and I will create a release. So we're creating the AMI, and I expect this is still this is still going to be a failure. So we'll handle that, but let's see. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's wait for the failure. I'm expecting, but let's see. And what is I mean, just what I'm going to expect is here is there is an AMI which you already created in the name of friend end, and actually you're going to put the you're going to create the AMI also simply in the name of friend end. Okay, so that is actually going to cause a problem. So here you're getting an instance and you're doing that, and actually you're creating the variable I mean AMI name just as that particular name. Okay, so since that name is already there, so then now what actually uh, Amazon rejects that particular name. So that's where Terraform also fails. Okay, you cannot create the same you cannot create an AMI another AMI with the same name. It doesn't make sense. Okay, it's going to be a failure. All right, so let's see. So it connect, but first of all let's find it out whether it really connects. You can see this username CentOS is coming, so that means it retrieved the username and password properly. And what is the problem happened here? So 127. Now what is that 127 is? 127 is Ansible command not found. Okay, so what I'm going to do is sudo yum install Ansible -y before running this. Okay, it's just trying. Let it just try. Okay, let's go and create another release because there is a code change. So and click on create. And yeah, for the question you're asking, Nikhil, basically what you can do is you can just go to um, the commits, basically history. You'll find it out, and you'll find out the history based on the date. Okay, right? So you can just go a bit down. You will usually find the date based commit as well, right? So you, yeah, and whichever the code you're actually retrieving, so you can click on that particular one, and you should be able to see that particular date code. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So still it is a failure, and I think Ansible command went failure. And what is the hyphen var is not there, right? So this is actually Ansible hyphen e is the Ansible options. Okay, it's not var. All right. So yeah. Actually, it should not go and destroy the things. So since it is a failure, it has to hold the things. So I'll go to the edit pipeline. So I see some problem with the pipeline. It's actually not stopping. If any command is a failure, it's not really stopping there. So then any advanced things I have. So fail on standard error, of course. This option is not there, selected by default. So if there is any error, stop there. Okay, why it is proceeding? It should not proceed with the next commands. Okay, next release will happen smoothly. Yeah, because now it is the AMI is a failure, so still it is showing that it is a succeeded. It should not do that. Okay, you see this? It's showing it still succeeded. So now what I will do is I'm going to do is just create AMI once again. Now it is trying to install Ansible. Yeah, it's installing Ansible. Okay, it's running. Now it will go for the AMI, and while it is hitting the AMI, it's going to be a failure. So what it is happening here is it's actually kind of destroying the old one and creating the old one, a new one, it seems. In fact, actually, I'm expecting if the AMI is already there, I kind of expecting a rejection message saying that the AMI is already there. But I think so it's gonna create a new AMI, okay? So and delete the old AMI automatically. So that's what is happening here. All right. So yeah, so that's also okay, right? But ideally, I don't want to, so override the existing AMI. I always want to make two AMIs, okay? Or I want to make the ultimately I want to make multiple AMIs. But how do I do that? How do I do that? So let's go and find it out. So how can we? Um, let's go and find it out. How can we do this? All right. So so let it complete. And also on the same note, so basically, so here I need to create an AMI with some version, but which version I have to pick it up? Which version I have to pick it up? Okay, so here the version which I have to pick it up is, so here I'm going to give hyphen where.component is front end, so which I'm going to give like so 1.0.0 or something like that. So it has to pick up some version number. So how do I pick the version number? Okay, so how do we make a release of an AMI basically? So AMI are actually making the release, and that particular so that particular release, okay, so that particular name I have to use it here. And also at the same time I want to maintain the uniform versions. Okay, the code should be released in the the code should be released in the name of some version. Okay, and the same version number has to be picked up by my automation, and it should apply to my AMIs, my artifacts, whatever I create, so using that particular one. And I will just kind of okay, use it on the server side. I mean, so the whole process what I'm trying to talk about here is, let me show you. So what actually I'm trying to do here is, so here on the code side, so who decides the version? On the development side, so these people decides the versions. Okay, usually, I mean, need not to be, so that these people should do that. Someone can do that, but still, I'm just talking about the best practice here, right? So code and these guys actually define the versions. So what are the versions these guys actually create, and those version I have to pick it up. Okay, so I have to pick up and I have to, so use in my automation. In my automation, what all the things I have? So I need to create an AMI, and the same AMI I should use it to deploy it as well. Okay, so this is what um, this is what I wanted to do basically. Okay, so how this particular end-to-end flow will work. Okay, so how can we make it basically? So that can be done by something called as using a something called as git tags. Okay, so you can use git tagging mechanism, and using these particular tags, what you can do is this code can be so put a tag, and the same tag can be used by your AMI, and refer that particular tag and make your AMI like friend end hyphen the tag whatever it is given, right? And the same one I will be used to deploy it in my servers as well. In my servers, I will deploy the same tag, okay, of the AMI, or using that AMI create the servers now. So how this end-to-end process will work now? So this is the first step. We are actually trying to bring a process. Okay, randomly you cannot give some number. I mean, people are there. So some people, what they do, so they don't go with the tagging. So I mean, they don't bother about the versions at all in some organizations and in some process. So people don't bother about the versions at all. I don't want to bother. Why should I bother? Also, there is a question again, right? So this is more of a legacy way. Okay, this is more of a legacy way. So the versioning, and also not only the legacy way, so it's actually more of customer facing products, customer facing projects, they follow this approach. Now let's say so the I mean, like, let's say you take Ansible, you have Ansible 2.10 is there. So tomorrow the Ansible 2.11, you're going to say that you're going to commit to the community saying that, or community is going to commit to the customers saying that, hey, in 2.11 we'll have these number of these number of features we are giving. Okay, for Ansible, version is really a mandatory. You take any other product like Jenkins, version is mandatory. Okay, so but for Azure DevOps, the version is really doesn't mandatory. Right? Azure DevOps, you're not really using, so you go to the repos, you don't know which version of Git repositories server they are using, or you go to the you go to the pipelines, so necessarily you don't know which version of pipeline software they are using in the backend. They never show you as well. They never show you as well. Okay, so in these cases your version is really not mandatory. So if some case, if you're nowhere exposing the information about your version to the customer, then there's no point of having this particular tagging. If your case is okay, if your case is going to have a first customer facing, and you need to give some kind of version into the customers, then yes, okay, so then the tagging is mandatory. So that's where okay, you need to choose which one suits you more. So now what you can do is, you can so whenever you commit the code, so basically your pipelines will be there. So the pipelines can kind of get some kind of a random number. So you can use that particular random number, not even the random number, some pipeline build number, something like that. Okay, so it's not completely random. So like pipeline, so the code side. So here you'll be running some pipelines, and pipelines will have some build numbers. Okay, people use this. Okay, and make the AMI using that particular build number, and make that AMI using that particular build number. So that's another approach. So either you take it, doesn't really matter. It's up to you. You just understand your process more, your organization process more, and you come up with the approach. Okay, the whole idea. Okay, that's the whole idea. All right, and yeah, so that's how okay, so we'll try to use both the things, both the scenarios, which is typically okay, but I'll prefer to go with this for now. So I will just use this. So how do I make some git tagging, and how do I use that particular tag here? All right, so let's see, and what are the options which I have here, that also I'll try to see. Now I'll go to the releases. So at least Azure DevOps, the second strategy I never tried so far. I'm going to put it now. Let's give it a try. So I'll go to the front end. I'll just click on edit. Now here, here, so basically some kind of scheduling. So scheduling is a kind of automated scheduling. It's not any kind of logic here, right? No, this will not work out for us. Okay, so I'll go here, and after the release, of what basically, so after release means you click on create a release. After release, this will run. Okay, so and so here kind of a schedule you have. No. So whenever there is a pull request, so then the time you do this. Okay, this makes sense. This makes little sense. Okay, and is there any other options? I'm just looking. So gates is something, so some kind of additional functions you can configure. No, this is not I'm looking for. Hmm. So I can see only one way. Okay, so other than the CI activity, so at this point of time, this is not completely possible with the straightforward option. So what we have to do is you have to configure something called as a pipelines, and then only it is possible. Okay, so as of now we are not actually using kind of a pipeline, so which is the release side, it is not possible. Okay, so there's a limitation actually. All right. So for now, we can just hold this particular topic, or we can go with the CI and we can come back to this. So CI is nothing but when there is any kind of a code is committed, when, or even of course we need to talk about this as well, because all the time, if you remember the code, we're actually downloading the source from the code repository. Okay, which no one does that. So if I just go here and if I try to show you the Ansible, this one roles, and if I go to the common task, so download with call basically. So what you're doing is you're using the call command, and where you're actually downloading the code from, you're actually trying to download the code directly from the repository. But in the organization or even in the process, basically we'll never directly download the code, especially the development related code, directly on the server side. Our code necessarily need not to be downloaded from the um, not necessarily, I would say, mandatorily. Even the development code, the source code will not be kept on the servers. Okay, so only the compiled code will be kept on the servers. Now when it comes to the compiled code kept on the server, so how do you do the compile, and so only how do you bring the compiled actually part to the server side? So that is where the continuous integration comes into picture. When you have some continuous integration, so the continuous integration is a process of what you see this continuous integration. Okay, so what is the continuous integration? Is a development practice where developers integrate their code into a shared repository frequently, and okay, so preferably several times a day. Each integration can be verified by automated build and automated test. So or else you look into the images basically. So what is the CI generally you do is or let me just show you a very simple one. So or else I'll put it like artifacts. Okay, so what actually you're going to do is you're going to, from the CI pipeline, so what you're going to do is so why is you're going to make some kind of a build basically. Okay, not appropriate images are coming. Where do we usually find this guy? What is this? What we call? It's a signed artifactory. Let me show you this guy web page itself. So if you look into this, basically, so what happens is, a lot of commits. You understand this diagram a little bit. Lot of commits. Each and every box going inside is a commit. Okay. So now what we are going to do, what actually the process is happening is it picks that particular commit and keep it in some place. Okay. This is actually archiving, right? It's actually archiving. So this is a JFrog, different product, which keep the artifacts. Okay. In our case, what we are using in our syllabus, which we're having is Sonatype Nexus. Okay. So we are going to use a Nexus repository and we are going to keep the artifacts in that particular place. Or else, okay, so since you are going to start with, so this process we can, these tools also you can use, or if you don't want to directly you start with these particular tools also, Azure DevOps also gives this particular approach. Now, instead of GitHub, we are using, these repos. Instead of Jenkins, we are using pipelines. Now, instead of Nexus, you can use artifacts also. Everything comes out of box in Azure DevOps. Now, what I can do is I can just bring in keep some artifacts there. That's it. Now, who published this particular artifacts? My CI pipeline will publish the artifacts. Okay, that's what the continuous integration is telling you, right? So now if I go and look into more of continuous integration, so so now if you look into this, my company quotation basically, so what continuous integration is telling, so continuous integration is a development practice that requires the developers to integrate a code in several times. Each check-in is verified by automated build and allowing teams to take the problems earlier. Okay, so that is the purpose of the actual CI. And if everything is fine, it generates one artifact. If everything is gonna fine, it's actually we are going to prefer to generate one artifact. Okay, or else in our case, what we're actually trying to do now here is, if any kind of tag is created, I want to make some artifact. Okay, so let the CI process run and let the issues detect for them. But what I want to do here is, if there is any kind of tag is created, I want to go with an artifact creation. Okay, so how do I do that? So first of all, let me start with a very simple CI pipeline and understand what is the purpose of CI. So purpose of CI is, whenever the code is committed, there is some steps need to run. What all those we'll talk about later. If there is any code committed, there is some steps need to be run. That's it. Okay, very simple statement. If any code is committed by the developer, okay, then some steps should happen. Okay, what all the steps, we'll see that later. Okay, for now I'll just start with simple hello, echo hello. That's it, nothing more than that. Okay, if any code is committed, I have to print hello. Okay, how does it happen? Okay, let's see. I'll go to the Azure DevOps. So now you have some kind of a pipelines. So you can start with these pipelines with some tools like Jenkins and also, but as of now you're getting Azure DevOps as out of box. So probably we are actually starting with that. Okay, and I'll just go with here, and I'm going to say that I'm going to create a pipeline. So pipeline I want to create for whom, my Azure repos only. Okay, so now whom I want to create, so probably like, let's say I'll start with rs-frontend. So we're just dealing with frontend, and you can say that so starter pipeline. So you got one kind of a YAML file which is auto filling the things, and just click on save and run. That's it. Now save and run. Now what happened, you go to the repos, and you go to the rs frontend. It created one file called as azure-pipelines.yml. It actually going to so do these things. What is actually telling when this pipeline should run? If there is any code committed to the main code, then you run this pipeline. You're telling that. Okay, now also it is telling that use the Ubuntu machine in the backend, and after that you're actually running a shell command, so which is echo hello world. Also another couple of shell commands you're running. Okay, so this is what you're doing. All right, so that's what your pipeline is going to do whenever you try to commit any kind of a code. So you go to the rs frontend, it's actually kind of scheduled. So why it is queued? So it should run, but I'm just thinking why it is in queue. Okay, let me go to the my basically my organization level settings. Don't bother about this. I have something in problem, so that's the reason it's actually not running Azure pipelines. I think there are so many jobs happening in that. No, so DevOps B53. It's okay. Yeah, it's running. It was a little bit slow. Okay, all right, no problem. Now you can see that pipelines, it's actually completed. In the completed section, if you just click on this again, if you just click on the job, it actually telling that, so this tab run one line scripts, it actually running hello world output. Okay, so on the second stage, it is telling that, so a couple of other commands, other outputs basically. Okay, so this is what actually is this is what is actually happening, right? Step by step. So these are your two steps, whereas the other steps are mostly done by your Azure pipelines. Okay, you don't have to bother. These two is our steps. Now, if I just want to change something, so then what I'm going to do is, so 1 second. So cd repos cd 52. And if I go to the Rover Shop project and the front end, I just have Azure pipelines. Now here, run a one-line script. So like, let's say I would say this as 1, and let's say assume this as 2, just my own names. I mean, previously there was just only the predefined names. Now I made some change and I push the code. Automatically, you will see that one pipeline will trigger. Since there is a new commit, now automatically a new pipeline will come into picture. Repos and then commits. So files basically Azure pipelines. You have 1 and 2, and I'm expecting a pipeline should be there, but it's really not there. Okay, if I go inside this and I'll click on edit, probably what it is enabled. Why it's not happening? Okay, let me just delete this pipeline. Let me create in another way. Delete. Okay, let me go to the repos. From the repos side, set up a build. Okay, from the repos, your RS front end. And from here, I'll just click on setup build. And so the trigger is, yeah, so main, if you push, it should trigger auto trigger. Let's see. Now you see 1 and 2 is coming, but at the same time, so I'm just looking like, if there is any code change, okay, so this should happen automatically. So the code change, I can put it to the readme.md file and, okay, so this is actually copying coming to master. Actually, so what you need to do is, so here is a master branch basically. So now here you have to keep, if there is any code change to the master, then you need to run this. Okay, that's what you have to specify to the pipeline. Now I will just wait for, okay, nothing will happen now. And so now I will just once again, I'll go this, delete this particular pipeline once again, and I will just say set up a build once again. Okay, go to the repos and set up the build once again. So in a master has to be there because the code is in master branch. Master is the default branch, which we already talked about, right? So, and also nowadays it's been renamed as main also. So that's where this RS frontend is having a master branch. And yeah, I wanted to use that for now. So 1 and 2 is happened. All right. Now if I, you go to the pipeline, you go to the front end. So there's only one run that's currently. Now I will just say the other one, readme.md. So I will just, like, let's say LP front end. That's it. Some change. I removed some lines. I added one line. Some change. I committed the code to there. Automatically my pipeline should trigger now. Hmm. Why it is still coming setup build? No. Suppose I go to the front end, setup build, start a pipeline. So there is something wrong. The code is not getting pushed because of some pull. Okay, so now front end has ran. Once again, one more change. Like let's say I'm putting number 1 or something like that. So let's press push. It's already there. Huh? Let's press pull. It's already okay. Cool. And I push the change. I'm expecting the pipeline should run automatically. What is happening here? So there is another file created. This is something wrong. Change. I go to the pipelines and I go and delete this. So set up a build, start a pipeline, and it's not main, it's actually master. And 7 wrong. So it ran. Okay, fine. You created the job first time it is running, that's okay. But the next time when I commit the code, also it should run automatically. So that's what I'm looking for basically. Azure pipelines. And also I'm telling that, trigger. This trigger is telling that, if there is any code which is pushed to the master branch, then you trigger the pipeline automatically is what we're telling. All right. So then in that particular case, and I will say this as 1. That's the change I'm making. Doesn't really matter what is the change. Change is a change. And now I'm expecting a pipeline to run. Okay. So, but it's not running. Interesting. And there are some changes basically on the Azure DevOps side as well. What all the changes is it is expecting a branch, but we have kept it as master branch. But branch is a branch. How does it matter to it is what I'm thinking. Let me modify the code something from the UI itself, and I will just run commit and commit and look for the pipelines. So if I do it from the UI, it's working fine. You see this automatically doing it. Okay, so then while I'm pushing it from command line, it's really not happening now. What is the difference? So I did a change from the UI and it actually worked as expected. We'll find it out. We'll find it out the issue. At least we got something. So one came. This is fine. But why not if I do it from the command line? So where my internet is bad or Azure DevOps is slow. It's too slow. Yeah, there are two runs currently. Now let's see. Two, and I kind of is already there. Yeah, it's running automatically. Cool. Fine. So that means if I make some change, it's actually going to trigger the pipeline. All right. Fine. Uh, This is the simple CI, right? So when the developer commits the code, no one who don't want to go and run it manually. It runs automatically. Okay. But we're not doing anything as of now. We're not doing anything. What we're actually we're not doing anything. So what we're actually going to do now here is we're not doing anything. So what actually we're going to do here is executing some shell commands. We're executing some shell commands, and those commands are executing fine, and we're seeing the output. That's also fine. Okay. The next thing. So in CI, so whenever there is any tag is created, I want to do that. First of all, I want to show you how do you create a tag. Okay. Go to the repos. Okay, from the UI. Like let's say from the UI, how do you do that? Go to the repos. And come here and you have tags, and there are no tags actually here. There are no tags. So now what I wanted to do is I just want to create a tag of this particular code. So now git space tag. So what I want to do is 1.0.0. Okay, so you creating the tag. Okay, first of all, let's look little internals of the git. Whenever you do git commit, so what is the process? You remember, go back to your process which we talked about, the git repository. When you make some change, git add the files, git commit the content, or git commit with some message, and git push, right? When you do git commit, what really happens? When you do the git commit, the thing which is going to happen here is it takes the commit ID. Okay, it takes the commit ID whichever you are in and put some or no, when you do the git commit, actually what it is going to do is it generates one unique ID. So if you want to check all those things, git space log. Okay, if you just give git space log, and every time it actually having some commit, at what time you had it, at what time you had it, at what time you had it, right? So this is the git tag. Okay, this is the git tag. This is the git tag. All right, so this is what you wanted to do. So this is the git tag, this is the git tag, this is the git tag, right? So now when you do a not tag commit, it's a git commit, git commit, git commit. Now currently usually you'll be in the latest tag. You'll be not tag man, commit. You'll be usually in the latest commit. You will be usually in the latest commit. Okay, so that particular commit, okay, if you want to switch to other commits also, you can do that. Okay, so how do you do that? You can switch from one code to another code. So previous version of code also you can switch basically. Git space. Okay, so if you want to go with the previous one, now let's say you have this, right? So and git space log, and if you just go at the ending, I want to go with the very first code. Okay, now if I just do ls, you have these files, and git space checkout, git space checkout, you give this particular tag, and you switch into that particular one and you do ls. So previously what all the files you have azure pipelines.yml file, which azure pipelines.yml file is not there. Okay, so that's how it is. Now git space log, if you go there, and so you will be seeing I mean at that point of time you have only one commit ID, and you can see that much only. So I think some option will be there, hyphen all will show you the all the things. So now I will just take the latest commit ID, and I go there, git space checkout, this one. Okay, so what really happened? So you have some piece of code, now you have some piece of code. What Git is doing, Git is actually referring the head. Okay, so you know a head, right? A head in a tape recorder, okay, or some music player. Okay, so head in music player. Images. So usually something all coming up. So the old days, if you go there, yeah, if this kind of, okay, so this is the head basically, the old days. Or even if you go with the what we call that, I don't know, gramophone or something. What is it? This. This one, if you try to understand, if you understand this gramophone only, right? Yeah. So gramophone, phone, reader. Okay, so yeah, usually if you understand this, there's no point in taking you too much internet. Hopefully everyone knows this as well. So if you look into this, so this is a head actually which is reading the track, isn't it? Now, okay, you have a different pieces of code. How are you reading that particular code? So in Git actually you are having something called as head. Okay, there is a word called as head. Using the head actually it is going to read that particular code. So if you just if you look into the hidden files, ls-a, you'll find out .git directory. So if you just go into .git, it shows you some information out there. Okay, you look into the config, so cat config, you will see the information about what is this repository and how do you clone it on that thing. Okay, so now at the same way, so now there is something called as ls-l, or if you look into the head actually. So now what is head? Head, if you look into that nothing but you will be having a commit ID. So where your code is actually where you want your code to point to. That's it. Your code is currently pointed to this commit ID. So Git always shows you the content which this information is actually stored with. Head is actually pointing. Now, whenever you go with Git space check out to the old code. So when you go with the git checkout to this old code, okay, so cat head. Now head is actually pointing to the new code. No, it actually should working tree. Okay, so now you go to cd.git and cat space head. Now you go there. Now you see this, you're actually going into that particular one. So how you actually your git refers the code in the backend, which code it has to pick it up, it actually goes with the head. Okay, now head is actually pointed. So now what actually when you do, I mean, so this git commit ID is a very big one, so that no one remembers this. Okay, and technically remembering this is a bit difficult, so that is the reason. So what we usually do is now check out this one and git space check out this one. Now what actually we're going to do is, no one can remember this particular long tags. Now rather than this, I want to put my own names, that is called as tagging. That's called as tagging. Now I'll say that we already created tags, right? So git space git space tag hyphen list. Okay, so there is nothing, so that means git space tag, I want to create 1.0.0. okay, you created one tag. Now what happened, so you go inside .git directory, do ls. So then what's you have here is, you have refs directory, you go inside refs, do ls. So you have something called as tags. Okay, go inside that, do ls. What the 1.0.0 will be pointing again to the which commit id. So which commit id, that's it. Now if you want to check out a particular code, then what you can do is you can just go with this. Now let me go back to some old code. So git space check out this one. Okay, git space check out to this one. Okay, now what I want to do is git space, okay, so check out to one particular tag, which is 1.0.0. Yeah, so now you see the, now if I go back to the git checkout to this one, so git checkout to the old one. Once again you do ls, you don't find Azure pipelines, git space check out 1.0.0. Now you are seeing Azure pipe, because you are actually checking out based on the tag. Tag is nothing but, so this is how generally the git happens. Reference happens in the git basically. Okay, so now git tag is technically nothing. You don't remember the commit id, you are giving your own name. Okay, hyphen tag, sorry, we push hyphen tags. Go back here and try to refresh this and come to look into the tags. You will see that 1.0.0. And 1.0.0 is nothing but as simple as a commit id, right? So which code you want to refer. All right, so this is how you need to create one tag, and if there is any tag is created, I want to run the pipelines, right? Isn't it? So I just go to the pipelines and I'll go here. So there is no change actually really happened, because you did nothing. You created a tag and you push the tag. There's no code change there. Okay, now I want to make a code change, and at the same time I want to put some tag, and I want to run this pipeline only when there is a tag created. Getting the point? Why only a tag created? Because the tag will be created with some version, and that version you want to pick it up. Okay, and you want to run the pipeline using that particular version. Okay, so yeah, how do I do that? So first of all, let's go and view. So here trigger, so we need to look into the trigger, basically what this trigger function is actually going to do. So there's an example, or there's an YAML file reference given here. So aka.ms/yaml, I think this is the reference here. So now if I search for a tag, or let's look for trigger. So there's a trigger and triggers. Learn more about trigger section. If you go into the trigger, so then what I have to do is let's find it out. Okay, a push trigger. A push trigger specifies which branch cause a continuous integration build to run. Okay, if no push triggers pushes to any branch build. Okay, if you specify no push trigger pushes to any branch trigger a build. Okay, that's fine. So then now I have something called as gate trigger. You have something called as okay, trigger. You have something called as branches, and you will be having include and exclude keyboard as well, and you can do that. Okay, so but we are just directly giving a simple one. So or else you also have something called as tags. But what I wanted to do is so here I'm going to say that here there is a tags, and in the tag section, and I want to say, so I'll just go and search for tags. List of tracks to require the pipeline to trigger, use manual or scheduled triggers. Okay. Okay, I would like to give something called as star and see what really happens. Okay, so let's see. So I don't see any examples, so that's the reason actually I'm going with some trial and error methods. So now you can see this, if you specify exclude clause without an include clause for branches, tags, or paths, equivalent to specifying star in the include clause. Okay, fine. In fact, tags actually you cannot give this. Actually, you go for include and then star. Okay, I some push the changes and try to refresh. This is okay. Now it will run for the first time. So, but actually it is throwing you an error saying that, so as Azure in line number 8, okay. So I think the star is something coming up. Okay, I'll remove the star and push the code and let's see. Sorry guys. So git push origin master. All right. And now it should have ran one more thing and we'll see. That is also a failure. So we need to find it out. So what is expected a value? Okay. But the expected value it is telling that, okay, the tags include and the star you cannot give. Actually, it's a list it is telling. I'll put it as star like this and see. See, what I'm finding it out is if any tag is created, okay, so it should do that. Okay. Um, okay, now the pipeline is really not running. You push the code, that's fine, but the pipeline is not running. Why pipeline is not running? Because you mentioned the trigger should happen only at the tags, right? So I think that star something on the double quotes is working, but we're not sure. So git space tag 1.0.1 git space push hyphen tags. Okay, if I do this, what's happening? Okay, I push the tag, so now my pipeline is actually running. Okay, so my pipeline is running and it's going as expected, and it will run 1 and 2. And now what I wanted to do here is I just wanted to see the environment variables. So what is this environment variables is what these environment variables should do is again I push the code, and now I'll put one more tag and get push tags. Now 1.0.2 is tag is created. Now what happens is, see, how do I catch that particular 1.0.2 is what my concern is basically. You see this 1.0.2 1.0.1, it's giving the information, okay, for what it ran, right? So now I will go with these, okay, look into the output. So somewhere it is actually, it is going to provide that information, that 1.0.1 and 1.0.2. No, you see this ref tags, right? So something, so 1.0.2, okay, you have in one place. So build source branch name, there is a variable called as build source, where, branch name. I will pick up this particular variable and I will pass this particular variable to my AMI creation. Okay, whenever there is a tag created, I will take this particular tag information and I will pass that information to my so the release pipelines. Basically, how do I do that? We'll see that in tomorrow's session probably. Okay, so today what we have understood is, when there's any code commit happened, how do you trigger a build? That's happening, that's pretty simple. Okay, the next step which we wanted to do is, so not every commit I don't want to do that. If there is any tag created, for that one, how do you do that? Okay, so that's what we have seen. If there is any tag it's created, the pipelines are working. So now based on this, I'll pass this information to my releases, my release pipelines, which is my AMI creation and all. And yeah, so my AMI will pick the information and it will build the image accordingly, rather than putting some random number. If you want to put some random number also is possible. So here you'll have some build number or something. You'll find out some kind of build number. Yeah, you see this. So build underscore build number. If you want to take one build number also is fine. It is okay. But as I told you, okay, there are two scenarios actually. If your project is bothered about the versions, then do tagging. If you don't bother about the versions, then go for and use some random numbers, which any of the CI systems will generate some random numbers. Okay, so Jenkins, if you go there, there is some build numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Okay, you can pick up that particular number. If you go with some other pipelines, like you're taking Azure pipeline, so here you have some and some numbers they are giving. You can use that. Anything is your choice. Okay, so that's how we would like to continue in tomorrow's session. And that's all from my side today. Yeah. Anyone? Any other questions or any questions?
Yeah, Raghu, not pertaining to this what we discussed right now,
Yeah.
but I'm not able to see your commits on the Git repo on any
GitHub.
file. Yeah.
Yeah. GitHub, I'm actually planning to run every 2 hours. So that means in the next 2 hours you would see them.
But no, not this particular, not even in this file. In generally any of your old files, I don't see it. It just says that cannot retrieve latest commit at this time.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see. So go there. Wiki. We have a GitHub link. It's a GitHub link. Go there. Let's go for Terraform catalog. and here I don't have any. So basically, let's go to the Terraform. Okay, makes sense. Makes sense.
I mean, it is not that important. I mean, I can always go to your lecture and.
No. It should be there actually. There is one small step I missed. I think everywhere will be the same scenario. But I'll fix this. Yeah, thank you very much. I will fix this. This is needed.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll fix it up. Yeah. Any questions? So how does it generally look basically? If you have some code like this, you'll still see one branch, but commits. Where do I see commits? Yeah, here is the committed part. Okay, let's go there. Let's go back. I go to Terraform catalog, where I have only one commit. But let's say.
I mean, you can go to like Terraform folder and then 03 inputs, like the main Terraform.
Yeah, main Terraform we committed so many.
03 input, like that.
Makes sense. Yeah, I'll fix. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone? Any other questions? Okay. All right. So we'll continue in tomorrow's session. So we'll just enhance that little bit pipeline, and so we will build the AMIs with multiple. We'll build the AMIs. Multiple AMIs with the same name, right? So same name in the sense some changes will happen on the name. How we're actually following is so from the tags. So we'll just look into that in tomorrow's session. We'll continue. Okay. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye. Good day.